I am Dr. Lal. I teach in the University of Kerala. I teach English language and literature, but I'm particularly interested in teaching English. For the last several years, I've been teaching English to students. I've also been teaching teachers to teach English. So, very often, students, um, grown up people, people who are comfortably employed in many areas, even highly placed people come and ask the question, how can I improve my English? It's a very interesting question because in a place like Kerala, in a state like Kerala, there is a lot of English. We have English all around us. Still, we have this feeling that we do not have enough English. There is some problem with confidence, evidently. So, in this short recording, I would like to talk to you about the ways in which we can become more comfortable using English in our areas. You may be a management student, you may be a doctor, you may be a clerk working in an office, you may work in a bank, but wherever you are, there will be much necessity for you to use English in context. That's very important. In context is very important. We may not be using English in to English people all the time. We may be speaking English to other people in our country, or people whose mother tongue is something else, like a Japanese person who is a client of us. So, well, it's a broad topic, of course, and I would like to confine myself to the aspect of how we can train ourselves to be good and efficient users of English. The most important thing is to realize that our English is reasonably good by international standards. The English of educated people in Kerala is very good in terms of vocabulary, in terms of the grammatical knowledge that we have, in terms of the variety of words that we use, the expressions that we have. We are really, really good. But the problem we have is that we often are not confident in using language. We feel that we don't have enough language. So that is something we need to break. Now, what do we do? How do we go about it? One thing is, we need to use English, particularly to improve your skill in speaking. We need to use English, and depending on what purpose you have. If you want to be in the field of management, for example, it's important to have practice in the kind of English you would need to use in your area. That is an area which an English teacher may not always be able to step in and help you specifically. You have your own language. You have the way in which you speak English. There will be terminology that is very particular to you. There will be expressions that have some other meaning in another domain, but which you use very specifically. So it's very important for you to have practice speaking English. Now, I'm looking at speaking first because English speaking is our biggest hurdle, or that's what we believe to be our major hurdle about English language. So, in a college where you study, if you are lucky enough to be in a college, what you can do is to have a little community of practice for practice. So, there will be many in your class. If you are outside the college, you are in your locality, there will be people who want to have some practice in English. Why don't you think of making a little community, or maybe 10 people, like-minded people, who sit together at least a couple of times a week, maybe spend 2 hours a week, and decide to talk only in English. You don't really have to worry about having a teacher there at all. You are, I assume that you're all undergrads or above that. You don't need a teacher anymore. You can be your own teachers. You sit together and start using English. That's a very, very efficient and very proven way of improving your spoken skills. Going to a spoken English class, somebody who offers a spoken English program, may not be all that good. I'm not saying it is not useful, but may not be all that good because you may not be practicing quite enough, and you may again be taught a lot of grammar and stuff like that. What you need is not new information in language. What you need is more practice in using language. So I would strongly recommend that you form a little community and every day sit together and talk about things of interest to you. Something about the coming exam, or something, a project you're doing, something related to your home, whatever it may be. But the more you discuss about your work and the study specific things, the more your language specific to that is likely to improve. Point number one is to improve your speaking. You need to practice. And practice in speaking is the only way to improve your English. And the best way to have a little community is to form a community of like-minded people in your college or in your neighborhood. Fix a time, come together and start talking. That's a very good way of doing, honing or sharpening your speaking skills. Regarding writing, again another important skill, but we don't have that much problem. We have a lot of practice in writing, but still we need to sharpen our writing skills. And again, to sharpen our writing skills, the best way is to practice again. Here, the good thing is that you don't need the help of anybody else. You can practice your own writing. You can keep a diary, for example. That I would recommend would be the most useful way as a student of English. Keep a journal, keep a little old notebook is enough. Write something every day. It need not be a poem or it need not be a story. Just write down about something that you experienced that particular day. It can be just a page, it can be just a paragraph, it can be just a few lines, whatever you like. But do it consistently. Every day write something about your day. So that's a very good way of improving your writing skills. Of course, when you need, you write letters, whatever. But when you write about your own life in a notebook, that is easy. You don't need anybody else's help in that. You need not show anybody what you've written. You read it again and again. And as you go on, you will find that you're writing better every day. Keep an eye on your spelling, keep an eye on your handwriting as well, because those are also skills we need to sharpen. So to improve your speaking, have a community and start speaking. To improve your writing, get a notebook and start writing every day something related to your life that happened every day, maybe related to study, anything. And if you are a student, you prepare your own notes. That's the best way to improve your language. You get your textbooks, you know the topics, you make your own notes. Read it, understand and make your own notes. It will improve your writing, it will improve your cognitive skills, it will improve your reading skills, it will also give you excellent grades in your exam. Now about reading, everybody knows the best way to learn English is to read English as much as you want, as much as you can, and reading is very, very important in acquiring any language skill, and English also. I would recommend you to start reading a lot. It's not your textbook only. Textbooks are meant for close study. It may not have a big variety of language that you might need. I would recommend you to start reading light material. If you think your English is really good and you're interested, you can read novels meant for grown-up people. But if you think your English is not that good, if you're not very comfortable reading a very serious book or a serious novel, start reading books meant for children. There's nothing wrong with that. Go to the public library or any library where there are children's books. You go and borrow books from your cousins who study in an English medium school. Get hold of simple English books and start reading. Read and read. Immerse yourself in English as much as you can, and that's the best way to learn English, and that is through reading. So when you read, you get more and more comfortable with language, you get new vocabulary, and in your community of practice, you will be able to apply all that. And when you write also, you'll be able to apply what you have read. So reading is the basic thing. So read as much as possible. Read something every day. Make reading a habit. And you know, it's not only for improving your language. Reading will also immensely improve your knowledge of the world, your general knowledge. You will be different. So reading is very, 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 very essential for an educated person, and a person who thinks, a person who reads, who wants to know the world, and to improve your English. Finally, listening is like reading. Reading is a way in which you take in language, and listening is another way in which you take in language. It's an input. You could say reading and listening are the input, and writing and speaking are the output. And for the output to be good, the input also has to be good. So if you read a lot, you'll be able to write a lot and speak a lot. And if you listen well, you also will be able to speak well, to write well, and to improve your understanding. But most importantly, it'll give you a lot of practice in listening itself. Listening is very important. We don't get much practice in listening to English, just as we don't get enough practice in speaking in English. We have discussed that. Form a little community, start speaking in English. Don't worry about mistakes. Just sit together and talk and talk and talk. The more you talk, you will find you're gaining more confidence and you're speaking better English. Don't worry about mistakes, because mistakes are part of learning. When we learned Malayalam, we made a lot of mistakes. Nobody bothered about it. Gradually, we learned to speak without mistakes. Same will happen with English. Go ahead and speak. Don't worry about mistakes. Don't go to a teacher. Sit together. Be your own teacher and start speaking and reading and writing in English and listening. I would recommend you to listen as much as possible. Now, today is very easy to listen because you have enough information in the YouTube. For example, the one single thing, YouTube itself. Go to YouTube, look for some particular topic of interest to you. It need not be essentially related to your learning. Any topic, any hobby, you have it there. You listen, you learn the content, you learn things. Meanwhile, you also have a lot of listening practice. So YouTube is one way. There are so many other ways of listening, watching television, watching movies, everything adds. But today you have this podcasts and so many other sources from which you can listen. TED Talks, for example, is a good source of listening. Listen to a wide variety of English, because English is spoken differently in different parts of the world. There is no particular version which is supposed to be right. All are right. So people in the world, New Zealand or America or Australia or Africa or India, China, any part, people speak differently, and you listen to different kinds of English, and then you will start speaking your own kind of English. Don't worry about correctness, don't worry about a standard kind of English, because you will ultimately speak an English which is your own. So what I have been telling you in this short video is, to improve your language, you don't need a textbook, you don't need a grammar book, you don't have to go to a tutorial session, a spoken English session. You can be your own teacher. The best way to learn English, to be excellent in English, is to read in English as much as possible, to write English as much as possible, to speak English as much as possible, and also to listen to English as much as possible. All the very best. Maybe we'll meet again with more information soon. Thank you.